don't think they should be flexing like that. I mean, like, if I was a girl, I would have done the same thing, you know? I'm telling you, I'm a boy.
Boys, is it okay for you to go through your partner's phone?
Ethan, do you want to start off?
Yeah, right. I do not think that's okay whatsoever. I feel like that's a total breach of privacy, lack of trust. Like, if your partner's doing that, then isn't trust what a relationship should be built on? And if you're immediately going through someone's phone, is that like not showing you do not trust your partner?
Exactly, I have the same point of view. I just think that's not right. And if you're with someone, you should just have trust, you know? Have trust on them, and yeah, shouldn't be going through their phone, definitely not.
Have you gone through someone's phone?
Me?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't need to.
Anyone who smiles before they say it.
I don't need to. I know that.
From my point of view, it's 50-50. Like, in all honesty, it depends where you're at. Obviously, everyone's different. Obviously, like, it depends where you're at in the relationship and everything like that. For me personally, it's not like, oh, let me go through your phone. It's just like, oh, if my phone's on the table, she needs something, or if I need something, it's like, at least I got the password. Oh, yeah, I got it, whatever. But not actively going, oh, let me see this, open up Instagram. But 50-50, it just depends on what context and where you're at and what the level of trust is, how new the relationship is as well. Yeah.
I think every relationship is built on trust. And if you don't have trust, then the relationship is not going to work, right? So I think one important thing is communication. And I think every relationship should have some sort of level of privacy, whether it's like, you know, individually or like with friends. You know, if you make jokes with the boys, I think, you know, that can be jokes just for the boys. It doesn't have to be including your missus or whatever, you know. But yeah, what about you, Ryan? Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think it's a flat out no. Like, it shouldn't be both ways. They shouldn't be going through yours, you shouldn't be going through theirs. Like, as you said, there's nuance with, there's first and foremost, there should be trust on both ends. The other one is, like what you said, is 100% true. Things can get taken out of context as well, and there's stuff that the boys will say to the boys, and likewise the girls will say to the girls, which is even up there with what the boys say to the boys, if not even worse, as well, in terms of details and depth that they go into. So, like, and on both parts, and also, I mean, you could be, it sort of takes away, you know, like you could have a friend that's confiding you in something, or vice versa, that you don't want your partner, or alternatively, it could be a friend that's telling you something that's very, very private. And then if your partner's gone through your phone and then starts getting access to their information, which they're actually not even entitled to, I think that's fucked. So for me, you don't go through anyone's phone, and it's not from because you think, oh, you're hiding anything. It's more, yeah, first and foremost, it should be trust, but secondly, yeah, you don't know, you take things out of context and shit just hits the fan.
So I got a question for you guys, right? Would you give your passcode to your missus? And if so, how deep into the relationship would you do that?
How deep?
How deep?
Like, deep as fuck. No, like, legit, like, if it's like a year or two, probably not. But obviously down the track, like if we're years in or even think about having kids, like, it's not going to matter as much. But yeah, it's got to be like well in there. That's my opinion.
Do you think it's better off to have her have the opportunity to open your phone so that if she does do that, then you know that that's not the girl that you want to be around?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I just think, like, I have a girlfriend, so if she asks me, like, can I have a look at your phone? I would let her have a look. It's all right, you can have a look. I've got nothing to hide, you know? Have a look at my phone.
But
see what you want to see, look for what you want to look for. But like I said, you know, before, like, you have to have your privacy, you know. That's not okay. I don't think that's all right. But if she does, like, want to have a look at it, it's okay. You're more than welcome to, you know. And, like, if she does find something that's in the past, like, it's in the past, you know.
It's in the past, yeah.
It is what it is. Like, I've done, like, no one's, like, not done anything bad before, you know. Like, everyone's been through stuff, so I just think that's what it is, you know.
No one's perfect.
Yeah.
No one's perfect.
Is it have you ever had a partner go through your phone?
Yeah.
Go to my phone.
Yeah.
I think I have. Yeah. But like I said,
How they get through it? Do they
Yeah.
find, yeah. How they,
I don't know,
do they
maybe
find
like-
password or they just-
you know what actually happened to me once. But once actually, when I was with my ex-girlfriend, like I was sleeping. I mean, I was on my phone and then I fell asleep. I left my phone out and she went through my phone. I knew because there was like heaps of stuff like open on my phone, you know. And I said, look, I was like, oh, she's been through my phone. She didn't say anything, so like there's nothing to hide. So if you want to have a look at it, have a look.
Was that
Like,
not a deal breaker, like straight away? That
I
you
don't-
knew that she went through that while you were asleep?
Sorry, what did you say?
So you're asleep and
Yeah.
she's gone through your phone
Yeah.
thinking you wouldn't know. Would that not be a deal breaker for you, given that she's just invaded your privacy like big time?
For me, like, well, it is, but I just proved to her that I had nothing to hide, you know?
Yeah.
I still didn't give her my password, but she went through stuff and she didn't find anything because I didn't have nothing to hide. So, pretty much, it's, I don't know, like, so, she's like, she had a look at it, couldn't find anything, so.
If you had one of your mates or multiple mates tell you that your missus was up to something, or they thought they saw your missus having a coffee with a bloke or
Yeah.
something like that, and you called them out, and then they said denied it, what would you do then? And someone you actually trust.
I would believe them,
I'd
100%, especially for my close mates. Because my close mates came before my girlfriend, you know?
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
I'll have more trust in them than...
bros before her.
Yeah, 100%.
I wasn't gonna say that.
100%.
It just I think it all depends, like obviously how close this person is to you. If it's just a random person just going, hey, look, obviously I'm gonna have a second guesses, you know. But like if my best mate messaged me and was like, yo man, like I just seen this, 100%, like no doubt about it, because
I won't have a doubt too.
yeah, I was like, nah, I believe.
I know guys I've met over the years. They've literally, they're so delusional that their missus, I'm sure it does go both ways as well, but their missus is doing the dirty on them, and they're literally got multiple people who actually have hard evidence, and they still don't want to know about it.
Do you think
It's
that's more
like
like denial?
It's like cognitive dissonance as well. Like there's this, that they're attached to the story of their partner, and that can be male or female, and they're attached to this ideology of their partner, and then
Ignorance is bliss, man.
ignorance is bliss to a level, and and they're attached to this story, and then soon, if the further they're attached to this story, once they actually get evidence of that this person isn't what they fantasize, what they believe, they just refuse to believe it. So what do? They cut the people who tell them, because they almost, rather than actually figuring out what the truth is and investigating more, they just like the truth is too painful. I don't want it, and then they cut their mate.
I've actually seen like a lot of that burst up, like even with some people from the past where it's been like a similar thing. Obviously a group of friends are saying or giving out warnings to, hey, look, like just letting you know she's this type of person or he's this type of person. And just like you said, they'll go and cut them off. And a lot of the times, like, they'll lose friends because of it. They'll lose, either relationships or ruin certain bonds with people because
Really close
of
friends,
that.
family friends as well.
Yeah,
Family,
especially family friends. Like, for what, like, they're telling you for a reason. Sort of thing, especially, like I said before, it depends on who it's coming from. So, I've seen it happen. It does happen.
I think if you're like multiple years deep into a relationship, that's really hard to accept, like that your partner is cheating on you or is betraying your trust in some way. I empathize with, like, for the example, guys who are like 4 or 5 years deep with their partner. Like that's a lot of your life, and you don't want to immediately believe the first thing that comes up. If it's like 3 months in the relationship, oh, your girl was at this party with this guy. Yeah, she's done. Like, I don't care. But being with a girl, like you might be engaged, you might be married, like that's really hard to deal with. And there's like a lot of implications to that, like friends that you've made together and just the ramifications of breaking apart. I definitely understand why guys and girls don't want to accept it immediately, and they'll stay in those relationships and cut people off because it's easier to maintain their comfortable life that they are unhappy with than have to face something that's really, really traumatic and have to grow and move on from that.
And sometimes it's easier for some people in their mind, I don't feel like this, but to actually cut their mates or cut whoever it is that told them
Oh, for sure.
the information,
Yeah.
rather than actually have to face reality that their partners not who they thought they were, and then go through that whole process of dealing with the trauma, rebuilding, and then even though that's what they need to do, they just think, fuck, I don't want to face that.
Yeah.
I'll just cut this person
For
off
sure.
and live in denial.
Crazy. So in terms of dating, so you're in a relationship, right?
I am, yeah.
And everyone else is basically single. You're single?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So basically, if you're on a date with a girl, right, and you see her phone out, she checks her phone and she like laughs and kind of does this.
See you later. Far out.
How does that
No
make you
way. Gone.
I don't know, like
Done.
I don't
What do
like
you
that.
mean?
You know, like you think someone else, maybe because to be one of the girls, maybe she's, I don't know, feeling you, she's trying to like maybe she's making fun of you to her friends. Maybe she's talking to another guy. Maybe she's in a relationship, you never know. So I'll be expecting a lot of that. So
Is this on the first date though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
This is
situation?
3 dates.
3 dates in?
3 dates in.
Or I don't know. Depends what you're comfortable with.
They don't know you much at 3 dates.
Yeah.
And that goes vice versa. I don't know at what point, but I think it's when you have that discussion that you're more
What
than,
are we? Yeah.
you're more than that, but I don't think anyone owes the other too much at that phase.
I think it just like, it honestly depends, because guys might do the same shit. Like, you got your boys group chat, they might be sending some outrageous shit on there you don't want them to see, like it might be, I don't know, like,
yeah, you never
we've got
know.
group chats together.
Yeah.
There's some
Man,
weird shit
I'll
on
be
there,
in
bro.
that
Like, just like there's everything on there where like it's just weird shit. A lot of it can be taken very out of context or just make you look really weird. So obviously, if it's that fresh in, I don't think you want to make that impression where it's like, damn, like she's gonna see this shit on my phone, she's gonna think I'm weird as fuck. I don't know.
But sometimes I think like you can also like see the body language as well. That's
Yeah.
one thing.
Definitely.
Going back to what you said about like 3 dates in, they don't really know you well enough. Surely you have the respect to at least not be doing that on the date. If you're like on a date with a person, you should be present there and actually actively on a date, like getting to know that person rather than being distracted of some other guy that sent you something really funny.
And the thing is, you don't know if it was a guy sent it.
Well, you got no idea, exactly.
You got no idea.
But like, I feel
Yeah.
like it's just
Like to
even
put
just
the phone
common
down,
courtesy
yeah.
to have your phone away. Like while you're on your phone, you're dinner having a conversation.
So what about if you guys are dating, like officially together in a relationship? How would you make you feel?
Well, for me, like I have a girlfriend, so I do have trust in her. Like she knows me very well. I know my girlfriend for like 9 years, so like I don't doubt anything. Like she did that. First of all, she wouldn't do that. I know her very well, so she wouldn't do that. Even if she did, I wouldn't think it would be like a big deal for me, because like I said, I got nothing to hide from her, and well, we never know. Like you can't trust everyone, So if she actually like did something, I would find out eventually.
Is it okay for your partner to have male friends?
That's a hard one, because all my girlfriend's male friends, they are my mates, so she doesn't have male friends. But I think in my culture, I'm Brazilian, so like in my culture, that's very common.
Definitely.
But I don't know, man.
Where's she
Sometimes,
Where's she from?
my girlfriend's Colombian, and I'm Brazilian, so it's nature,
She's
like.
been through fine.
Hey? She probably has. But like I said, I got nothing to hide, so she can keep going through her
That's
phone.
that's not even up for debate. She's 100% with, right? Yeah, what do you think, Pedro?
I'll repeat it.
In terms of, is it okay for your partner to have male friends? And more so as well, like male friends that they might regularly either message or even sometimes catch up with. And catch up could just be coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's just like Pedro said. Like our culture is we're very friendly people. Like we have a lot of friends. But me personally, I'm not the biggest fan. Initially, like my first thought was, yeah, she can have male friends, but they got to be gay as hell. Like they cannot be straight. And I got to confirm that shit too. No homo, pause. But like, yeah, like that was my first initial thought. But like, I think it just depends on boundaries, and especially how she reacts if those boundaries are broken. So if one of her male mates is like, oh, let's just say 10:30 at night, she's like, oh yeah, I got a free house, come watch a movie or some shit. Depending on how she reacts on that will tell me a lot.
But there's one thing, we're men. We know, man, what men is like.
We already know. Like,
we know.
The intention.
If let's say you have, well, it's her friend, it's not even your friend, let's say it's her friend, you met him, it's all good. If one day you break up with your girlfriend and he knows she's single, he's gonna hit her up sometime. You know that.
100%.
And
you gonna hear that all the time.
And you know, if like he ever or she ever asks him to go out or something, he wouldn't say no. He would never think about you.
Facts.
So
Facts.
I don't know how much I agree with that.
It's one of her friends, you know.
This. I think this is all the things. I don't know if the rest of you guys can relate as well, but for me personally, I've like seen it happen. I've had it happen. I've made it happen. So, yeah, it definitely. It depends.
I think for the vast majority, there's a lot of guys who are sleazy and are the guy best friend to try and get ins with a girl who's already in a relationship. But I think the amount that it bothers you tells you a lot about your security in yourself as a man and as a provider. And you should be like, I'm a good enough partner that she doesn't even need to worry about these guys. And she can be friends with these guys. If they're going to make a move on her, I trust her to have the respect for me and to not break that boundary, that relationship. I don't think, like, of course it's easier to say, like, you know, they're going to be there when you break up, shoulder to cry on type deal. But if you're strong enough in your relationship, I don't think it should be an issue.
There's elements of truth there, I agree, but also I think if you're a bloke and you're waiting around in the wings, it's like,
oh, you're a scumbag.
You need to, as her partner, let those guys that you feel are like.
Oh, if you know, you can say like,
you got the guys that are blatantly trying to get in there, or you got the white knights, and everyone fucking hates a white knight. You know, a white knight. White knights are the guys that they were hanging around being like the supportive friend who's always there. They wait for that weak moment and then they jump on them.
Yeah.
So they're just as bad as the guys, if not even worse than the guys that blade out trying to fuck them. Whereas the white knight will become that passive, supportive, nice friend that will just wait for that weak moment to jump in, and they are the biggest pussies.
The biggest fucking simps.
Pussies around, and like they're worse than guys that actually just straight up try to get in there. And regardless, I think yes, you do. I agree. Like you definitely do. You got to have faith in them, but also like without going too tight, like they are. Yeah, I would say they're your property, but like you're there. Just like you, if women are just blatantly cracking onto you all the time, she has the right to say
don't talk to them.
You fucking talk to my man like this, like. See what happens.
Oh,
and guys
I totally agree with that.
Men have the threat of violence as well, which is a different element. And I think when they know that, you know, if you cross a boundary, one thing's throwing a DM when you don't know the guy, but if you actually know the guy's there and you're continually working at it, it's like, yeah, I think they need to know that that's not acceptable.
100%.
Yeah. Topic 2. Do you think after a divorce it's fair to do a 50-50 split of assets?
I think that's very circumstantial.
Explain.
Well, if I'm already built my wealth and success before going into a relationship, and then we happen to get married and be married for a year, and then it doesn't work out and she cheats on me and leaves, should she be entitled to half of what I've built? I don't think so. If you get married and for 10 years you work with your wife, or your wife supports you through building a very, very big business, and then you split, yes, I think she's entitled to that because she's been a provider for you. She's made sure that you can facilitate that. But I don't think the 50-50 should be a blatant rule over every relationship.
I definitely agree on that. Everything depends on the circumstance, depends on how long, depends on if you've got kids together, this and this and that. I think there's multiple factors that could obviously make that deciding point. But I 100% agree with your statement. So like, if we've only been married for a year and it just doesn't work out, no, you're not getting half my shit. Simple as that. But once again, on the other side of things, if we build something together, then you're technically entitled to your share of whatever we've made or whatever we've built, or
What happens if there's no kids?
I think that also brings it down to, once again, how long, what has been established in the relationship. The idea that you put forward for we've made a business together, it's a pretty good way to put it, because obviously the business doesn't just belong to one person. The business was made as two people came together and made this thing happen.
most of the time the business will be one person.
But I
For
think,
example, like myself,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've got a business. If I met a partner, and particularly when there's no kids, because when there's kids, there's the element of, okay, they're sacrificing their potential earnings and career to look after the kids, to then support you. So they're losing out financially. So yeah, that makes sense. So they're losing that. And yes, if they're a good partner, they can get you to another level. Yes, but if you're with someone and you're only married and you don't have kids, they can still work, do what they want. Yeah, there's nothing actually holding them back.
I feel like a prenup is very important.
yeah.
Do you think that's important in every sort of marriage to protect both parties, or?
I do think so. Obviously, you see very, very often now where the female is actually the breadwinner. And obviously, yeah, so both parties to have that sort of protection. Same thing, you know, just like if I was a self-made billionaire, married, didn't work out, and she wanted to take half my shit, I wouldn't like that. Same thing if she was a self-made billionaire, and the guy wanted to take half her shit, obviously wouldn't really slide. But yeah.
Yeah, I reckon, like, depends, you know, like what you've built together, then I agree it should be 50-50. But if something that you've done before your marriage or relationship or whatever, like, you should just keep what you have worked for, you know. If you work hard for something for so long, you actually achieve that, and then you get married or into a relationship and then you guys break up, then you have to split that off, like, in half, and then that's not fair. I don't think that's fair.
I think because of how variable it is, like you said, whether you have kids, when she came in with the business, did she help you grow the business? Yes, a prenup is super important, and it's a written agreement that defines the terms. But I don't think I think especially females would be too keen of when you're talking about getting married, you slide a piece of paper in front of her that says, oh, just in case you leave me, like, you know, I'm keeping my stuff. Like, I feel like that sets the wrong kind of tone. But at the end of the day, it is protecting the person who's built the wealth prior to coming in, or whatever wealth may be built when they're together.
And also, you know, it's one of those things, I mean, that's where I think a lot of guys get, they probably do want to get married, but then they're so hesitant because if you look at like the stats, probably, you know, call it say roughly 50%
Oh, it's not good.
Marriages end up in divorce, and 80% of them initiated by women as well. And then probably statistically, who would most likely have most of the wealth? So then you go, who's it more favourable in the divorce in terms of from an asset perspective? Obviously, male and female both emotionally go through the same pain, but I mean, if on the assumption that the guy's brought the wealth, which is statistically these days, that will start to change as well. It's starting to change, but you know, if a guy's, it's just not in favour at the moment. I think it should be one of those things. It shouldn't be a blanket 50-50. It should be a lot of variables. Obviously, like there's kids, how many kids, what the guy was worth when you met, how long you're together, and a sliding scale, you know, according to that. So I think, yeah, the blanket 50-50 I think's absolute BS. But like someone who's been around for a while, help raise the kids whilst the guy's earning, absolutely deserves to get looked after.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like you said, it always comes down to context, right? And the variables. As a man in a situation like, for example, if I was in a relationship where I was the main breadwinner, I was making way more than my partner was. So, and she was more kind of a stay-at-home, taking care of the house, that sort of thing. And we bought a house together. And I, let's say, for example, I funded over 50% of that. And she was in a position where she was kind of working like just a retail job, not in a very financial strong position. I think I would sell the house and split that 50-50 because I know I can make that money back. I'm not tied to that. I think for me, if I was in that divorce situation, it would mean kind of removing any kind of material link that emotionally I'd be tied to with that partner. So I think for me in that scenario, like money wouldn't necessarily be, or assets wouldn't necessarily be kind of the deal breaker. It's more a case of like, I know I can make that money back compared to my partner. So like, I don't want to leave her off like in a worse position than I am. Even though I worked harder, I think for me, I would actually just make it so that she's okay in a sense.
I think that's a very mature way to look at it, like looking after the partner, even if it's ended on bad terms. Like you still had a life with that person, you want to make sure that they aren't just going to go back to working minimum wage retail job and be worse off. Like, I think that's still like years of life they've given. So it's very fair that they leave with at least some accrued wealth.
Definitely. In terms of the third question we'll go through, in today's society, what's more difficult? Being a stay-at-home mum, raising kids, or being able to financially provide for the family while still having to be present as a father?
My answer for that one was, I feel like it'd be very hard to obviously, keep the cash flow going throughout the house to support the kids too, whatever might need support, school, bills, everything, and then still be 100%, well, not 100%, but as much as possible for the kids. What my opinion was, it can be very mentally exhausting, and obviously you might not be happy with how much you get to see the kids, or how much you get to spend time with your partner, how much you get to actually go out and have fun with the boys, or go on a trip every once in a while. If it's always constantly, obviously it depends on what you do, who you are as a person. If you're very well off, then different story. If you have a business that's going really, really well and you work from home, once again, different story. But in general, if you're doing everything and being the main provider while also trying to be there for your kids, I feel like that could be a very big toll, which in some cases, as I've heard, has actually affected the marriage as a whole, or the relationship with the kids as a whole. So that sort of direction.
Well, I reckon it's definitely harder for the man because, if you stop and think about it, at the end of the day, you do work and come back home and you still got to play the role as a father. So you do have to look after your kids, you got to provide for them, you got to look after your wife, got to make sure everything's in place, and you still got to make sure you're doing well in work. You got people like helping you out with stuff, of course, and you got to make sure your kids are good. So they go to school, they're doing the right thing, you're looking after them, you're raising them in the right way, they're not getting mixed up with the wrong people. So I think it's a very hard role for the men, so I think it's definitely harder.
Yeah, I do think the sole provider role is the hardest, but again, it still applies to women. My mum raised my sister entirely by herself and was the sole breadwinner in that household, and that was very hard, and that's hard to maintain a relationship with that child. I think the stay-at-home mum thing is a little outdated. I think especially as kids get older, there is a capacity for both parents to work, but to be the sole provider of the household and maintain a relationship with your children would be extremely difficult because you have two spheres. You have your work sphere where you have to be a high performer and earn enough money to look after a household of people. That's a lot of people. And then also be a good dad, a good husband. It's two different things you have to manage. Whereas I think the stay-at-home parent role is your sphere mostly stays within the home, the children, the relationship. It's all kind of tied in where you don't have to live two things.
I think today's society, especially, a big factor of this is cost of living. Because back in the day, parents could actually afford to have just one parent to be able to provide for the family, and the mum could actually stay at home. Whereas nowadays it's like you need both, man and woman to actually work together in order to provide for the family. So I think it's a big, big factor. And mad respect to your mum for doing that.
Oh, she's a G, for sure.
Very, very difficult thing to do both. So yeah.
Yeah, and I agree very much with Bernie as well. I think traditionally, years ago, it was, I feel like it was easier for the men traditionally. It was easier to have that dynamic years ago. I still think it's idealistic, in terms of having that dynamic, but it's just not realistic as well. So I think, you have the mother, really instilling the values of the couple as often as she can the kid, and then also the dad being able to do that and provide as the family. But obviously the more time the mother's away from the kids and the father's away from the kids, who's instilling values? Yeah. That's school, that's the phone, it's social media, it's all these sort of things. So you start to lose the values that you want to instill as a family and then the government's raising them, schools are raising them, social media is raising them as well, which is hard. And the other thing as well, I think it is very, very, very hard these days to, and also I think back in the day, I think our parents definitely, they could live within their means a bit better. These days we love, if we want something, we want to get it. If we want to go on a holiday, we want to do it. But, Instagram shows us that if someone else is doing it, we want to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And if your partner's at home or, or whatever, or even within yourself, or someone else is, they're upgrading their car and they're doing this and they're doing that. So everyone tries to keep up. So then in doing that, in that comparison, you just can't, live that life. Unless you got the main breadwinner earning a significant amount of money. And that's what the most fucked up part is then that is gearing society to valuing that one aspect of person who earns so much money, and then like the amount of money earns just such a high quality in the dating market, and so many other values just get completely missed.
I think social media has really skewed a lot of people's reality. Not even just money, I think it's also as a career, there's all these YouTube videos out there, or even TikTok accounts being like, oh yeah, I'm a multimillionaire and I'm in my early 20s. And like, how actual, like realistic is that? Like for the majority of guys, especially your age, how many people around your age are actual millionaires?
Exactly. If you stop and think about that, like I've worked so hard my whole life. I had many different jobs, and I'm definitely like in the right path now, because I'm started to make some like good money now after a long time of work. And I started working since being 15. So I had heaps of different jobs, and I'm definitely like in the right role now. So I'm making a good job. I'm 5'4" now. So like it's hard if you stop and think like, it's not that easy. Like everyone says, a lot of people could be like lying as well. You never know. Fake it till you make it,
I guess that's the one thing about social media is you never really know what's going on behind the screen. One person might show this, flashy lifestyle, sports cars, holiday in whatever it might be, but what's actually going on, you never really know. I think, like you were saying before, it plays a big part on how people view things, on how it affects people's mentality as well. But it's definitely having a bigger effect, and I don't think in a positive way. It'd be interesting to see what effect it sort of has going forward with the whole scenario with, either the main breadwinner and the kids in the household, how the kid's going to be brought up, especially with all this content coming around, with all this different sort of stuff that is out at the moment that they have access to so easily, that even me, I'm 20, but when I was young, like I didn't have access to that stuff. I'm sure Pedro didn't have access to that stuff. Same with you, like it was a lot harder to get our hands on it, whereas these days, all you have to do is, make a few taps and it's right there. So I reckon it'll be a bit of a tricky one. And
instant gratification is like a massive thing now.
Yeah,
which is the big thing. I think it's harder these days, but like I think it's harder to be. There's more opportunities to be successful, but you have to have more talent than people back in the day.
Yeah,
like average Joe back in the day could get a property and get a house, and this average Joe these days fucking is week to week. It has to be on a tight budget to be able to get ahead. And the way like inflation is and properties are and the way everything is, it's so much harder. It's so much harder these days, but also then there's the elements of instant gratification, comparing to other people. And then, and everyone compares to other people as their baseline. And it's just such a bullshit barometer of where people are. And most people, I think online, it's like with couples, I've found in my experience, couples, the most miserable couples are the ones that post the most together.
That one. Yep.
I've never met a good couple that post constantly together. Every single time.
Because it's masking insecurity.
It's an overcompensatory mechanism. And the same thing, like generally like the flash it over the top, ridiculous. I mean, some people have got general wealth that act like that, but most of the people have got ridiculous wealth. They look run the mill.
Yeah.
Well. So like the degree of overcompensation as well. And that's the thing, you don't know what someone's worth, you don't know what they're doing. People post themselves next to a fucking jet, it's not their jet, they jump a fence and go next to a Lambo. They do this shit. They do this shit, and then they would do it, and then, and then you get these young guys in their 20s claiming, and you will get some freaks these days that will fucking kill it, and they're absolute minority. Like everything like takes time to develop, and to be sold that you know things can happen quick will set you up for failure.
Yeah.
You do stupid shit, or alternatively just make you feel like a fucking loser as well. So regardless, it's not a good thing.
For sure. I mean, I like have a pretty good life at the moment. Like, sorry about the voice crack. I get to travel, you know, like I travel for my work, I shoot, I really, really like what I do. But then I've got online coach friends that are in fucking Europe right now. And I feel like shit about myself. Like they're in Europe for like 3 months. I'm like, why can't I do that? What's wrong with me? That's not realistic. Like
You're 19.
Who does that? Who does that? There's 5 people in Europe and I feel like shit, like I'm not doing enough. Like it's completely ridiculous that Instagram's led to like a place now where all those memes about people being in Europe, it's like everyone's like, I'm at work. It's like, yeah, because like 8 people won't stop posting about it. Like that's why you all feel like shit. It's because there's this like outliers or people who might not even afford to be there. They're on like credit cards and shit.
Oh, big time.
Playing big time, like, and they don't have any money left when they get back. So it's just super unrealistic.
Do you guys know anyone that flexes for the gram? So when I say that, like, for example, they buy a material object and they take a photo with it and then they return that.
I'm not gonna name any names, but if you see this, you know, stop that shit. But yes,
Stop telling your brother.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, that's all I have to say. My bad. Came to you very. Don't take that personally. Nah, it's not.
It's that 30-day return policy, man. That's their favourite
Make sure you
policy.
keep the receipt, bro. I remember you panicked once you lost the receipt. Don't do that again. Just save yourself this time.
I mean, I'm not calling anyone out, but I've worked with clients who have hired like nice penthouses and cars to shoot with, and that's what they want to do. Like, I don't feel like I would do that, but that's what they are inclined to do, and they want to flex for the gram, and it gets views, it gets clicks, boosts their business. I can't really argue against it, but it is a big part of culture.
Well, I know some people that they literally just flex with their friend stuff. So they got friends, but they're pretty much friends with them because they're friends that have something, like they have a nice car, they have a nice apartment.
Social credit.
Exactly. So they do use them for that. They be posting stuff, and at the end of the day, no one knows who's actually paying for it, whose stuff it is, you know?
What do you think about young girls that are flexing with things like that, like
Or they're like in the
jumping
passenger
lifestyle,
seat of a car.
or jump in the Lambo, or they're jumping in.
The
They're in business class going to Europe. These sort of things as well. Things where it's clearly not them, their asset or them paying for it, but they're flexing it. What are your thoughts on them?
Well, I don't think they should be flexing like that. I mean, like, if I was a girl, I would have done the same thing, you know? I'm telling you, I'm a boy, but if, like, let's say someone did that to me, like a woman or something, invited me to go out and chat, oh, definitely go if I was single, you know?
I'm taking a selfie, bro.
I was like, why not? Why not? I'm going to have fun, you know? I'm going to, you know?
But the bloke has never posted.
Then, yeah, that's bad.
The person that owns it
disrespectful,
has never posted.
At least give credit where it's due, you know.
Yeah. Because it's not like you're in there with your partner or in there with someone and you know have fun. It's always there's this low key ridiculous insinuation. It's like it's their asset, and 99% of the time it's not.
But, you know, a lot of people that score, like, that kind of sort of big money, they don't post that much. Some people do, some people don't.
And generally they don't. Yeah.
They don't, yeah. If you actually have it, you don't be posting. You post like once in, like, I don't know, maybe in a week or two, you post something, you know?
That's
You
very
won't be
true.
posting every single time. So you can pretty much tell these days who's flexing and who's actually got the bag, you know?
And most time I think with the young girls, it's more they're not flexing to impress guys, it's to impress women.
And they know, the more they do that, the
make
more
them
people
jealous, you know.
invite
It's
them
like, oh,
to
how
do,
come I'm not living this
like,
lifestyle?
come
Yeah.
out, do this, come do that with me, you know, I'll pay you this much. Because some girls do get paid to go out with these guys.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very, like, particularly I found, like, since COVID, the whole, like, sugar baby culture, the whole fly you out to Dubai, fly out to Miami, this shit's just gone fucking mental in the last 3 years. And it's like because the whole dating market is it's international now. It used to be in your city. You go in your city, you date whoever's in your city. And then if you flew to if you went on holiday, you might meet someone there. Whereas now it's literally, it doesn't matter like where the fuck in the world you are. If those guys have got the resources and they've got Instagram, they can access you. So in saying that, you're all young guys. You're all sub 23 years old. How do you feel now that the game has changed, that a lot of the very attractive young girls, 18 to 23, in your age demographic, they're now getting access to guys who are much older, got much higher work, they're valuing more network rather than, sorry?
Ran through.
Low stock.
Yeah, bro, like, got mileage. Like, it's sad though, like.
Freaking flies.
He's taking up Qantas points, bro. That's crazy. Yeah, like, I honestly, like with that one there, it's I feel like same topic as we were on before of one of the downsides of social media. Obviously, there's a lot of pros where, you know, for example, you go on a holiday, like you said, you meet someone, you come back here, you actually have a way to text them or to call them, other than, you know, sending mail and waiting 5 weeks to get a response back. So obviously, depending on the aspect in which you view it in, might be better. But in the case where, I'm not sure if obviously we're on the same page, but you know, the girl that we see that we're like, oh, you know, like I want her or whatever, I think she's pretty, whatever. Most of the time, especially nowadays, depending on the status, depending on how she lives her life, she probably already been on, you know, 10 business trips. She probably already been to Dubai with, you know, X amount of people.
Does that make you a little bit resentful at your age? Because obviously, as a very young guy, it's hard. It's hard to have any.
That's really hard. Like, I feel like
bit.
Going back to the whole like Instagram thing, access to women like in our age demographic, it's really hard now because you just can't compete with the 27, 28, 30-year-olds who have that money.
35-year-olds.
Because you just can't compete. You can't compete. Like,
and it does be like 50, like a lot of money, and I get it, I understand. Like,
yeah,
I'll be honest. Like, if I was a guy, I'd do the same shit. Like, you know, he's this 46-year-old millionaire. He's invited me to, literally, come on my private jet. We'll go to this place. We'll do this, this, and this. Hell yeah, I'm gone. So like, I'm not saying no, but at the same time, from our perspective, it's like shit. Like, we don't have it like that.
I think a lot of young men are like very lonely because access to relationships now is incredibly hard because girls are reaching high because they can, and guys are in like their rocky cutscene where they're having to grind and having to work. And I tell myself, like, even to make myself feel better, that I can't really compete with 27-year-old me. Like, I'm a killer. Like, I know that. But right now, like, no one wants to give me the fucking time of day. Like, I'm just this random kid. Like, I can't fly them out. Like, it's impossible. You cannot compete with that.
So in saying that, as young men, how do you compete against that? Or what do you do in order to attract someone that you want to date?
I simply don't try. Like, I actually have told myself that I'm not interested in dating until I'm the kind of man that attracts my ideal partner.
That's very mature. That's very impressive mindset. I think I'm not saying by all means that is the wrong thing to do. If anything, that's like, I encourage that. But obviously, everyone's got their own sort of way of dealing with things, or everyone's got their own sort of view on things. Once again, very, very unrealistic for myself to be like, yeah, I'll fly you out, do this, and that. So as for my position at the moment, obviously, once focus on myself, you know, there's a saying, I don't know exactly how it goes, but you grow your garden and the butterflies will come to you. But at the moment, it's just be myself. If they're interested, they're interested. If they're not, it is what it is. I got my own shit to do.
Exactly, which is hard sometimes because when you have that kind of money and you like famous or living that kind of lifestyle, you have everyone around you. When you don't have it, then you see who's actually likes you or who doesn't like you. You can pick, that's easy, man. Like, same thing, if you can't really compete with these guys because they're like, well, sometimes they're even the same age as you, but they're making that much money. You know, they're living that sort of lifestyle, and like for them it's so easy. You just like, they've got to click a finger and they have everyone that they want.
And the big thing, I think, at your guys' age, it's like, and I feel for you because like when I was your age, it was different. Like Instagram wasn't around when I was your age, so it's like there wasn't as much comparison. It wasn't like the international dating market and all that sort of stuff. So it was actually more like fair when I was your age, like as opposed to what it is now. So like it's that thing that the reality is a reality. Like a lot of younger women these days, they'll want like, you know, whatever you call it, high value man. And the things you can't, it just take, to be a high value man, it's not
Takes
having
time.
money, it's developing yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. And then you can't do that at like 24, 25. You know, that takes years. So it's almost like you have to just focus on improving, except it is what it is. If you meet people along the way, great. If you don't, and then your time, it's almost like your time will come. If you keep focusing on yourself and you don't focus on everything you're missing out on, like, your time will come. And when it does come, if you're doing the right things, that's when you have the options.
That does suck though. Like, a fear
very
for me
gratification.
is that if I meet a girl when I got my bag and whatever, and I'm 27 and live my best life, like, does she really like me for me, or does she like me because of what I have? Like, that is a genuine concern that I've thought about and talked about to my friends. It's like, what happens when I actually do achieve all this success and I do have all these things? It's like, how do I know? How will you ever know that she's there for you and not there for what you have?
And a big part of it is still working on yourself, so you develop better self-awareness, you understand yourself better, and when you actually understand yourself better, you'll be able to pick up the individuals that are just coming after you for money, and you'll have better awareness of, and look, a lot of that comes with dating a lot as well.
Yeah.
You'll pick up a lot of nuanced behaviour that is indicative of someone wanting you for the external as opposed to the internal. But I think that's where it's hard, like, for you guys, because like there will be still a small demographic of young guys that will do well with women, but most will battle and they'll be fairly lonely and they'll have their guys and play games and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's just that, you know, focusing on yourself, developing self-awareness, so that you can actually, when you actually find and actually understand your own values and what you're looking for, so when you see those values present in someone else, you can actually go for it, as opposed to someone who wants you just for status. I think when you develop yourself, and that's the thing, is these sort of skills you normally don't get in your mid-20s. It's normally not to your 30s that you start understanding this sort of stuff.
I feel like with that one, obviously, there's bits that you can agree on every part, but I feel like it'd be obviously a little bit unrealistic to say that every female is only going to be after me because of my money, because of what I have. Obviously, you know, there might still be a certain percentage out there. You never know. Honestly, you never know. And with what Ryan was saying, obviously with the experience in dating or being in relationships, sometimes long, sometimes short, whatever it might be, obviously you pick a few things up. And I can say for myself, after being in a 4-year relationship, obviously I've learned a lot, not just about the person that I might be with, but also about myself, what to look out for, what to do better, what to, you know, things like that. But yeah, I feel like it's not entirely the correct way to say that, oh no, this is black and white how it is, because that's all they want. So obviously it varies.
Question 4. What does working on yourself look like to you?
For me, it's spending time alone. Like, self-discovery. I feel like it's very hard to do that when you're around your boys and you're having a good time. Like, what's going on in your own head when you're not listening to a podcast, when you're not playing music, when you're not at the gym, when you're not just like buried down in work? Like, what's going on? How do you feel? I feel like that's very confronting, and that's something I'm working on now, is like developing myself and the comfort in myself on my own.
So if things are coming up for you when you're on your own, how do you process it? Or how do you make any interpretation of it? Based on being 19, a 19-year-old bloke. Because when I was 19, I wouldn't have any idea how to process that stuff.
I don't think I'm the most self-aware, but I think I'm more self-aware than a lot of 19-year-olds. But it's a hard one to process. Like, I think you feel feelings, and then I might feel like shit about something for a few hours, and then I think about it and I'm like, okay, logically, like, why do I feel this way? Oh, it's because of this. And then it kind of gives you the tools for when it comes up again to kind of deal with that better and know something about yourself. And it's like knowing that, oh, I feel this way, like I have this insecurity or like this thing that pushes me to do more, like because of this. When you understand that, like that is self-development, that is self-growth.
As a 19-year-old, you're obviously more aware than majority of 19-year-olds your age, right? So what led you to kickstart that journey towards self-awareness?
I feel like I've always been a bit weird. Even like growing up and stuff, like I just wasn't a normal kid. Like, had friends and stuff, but never really felt like I was on that level. So I think I spent a lot of time on my own, not being like super popular or anything. Like when you're not super popular kid growing up and like in school and stuff, like you kind of have to look within because you're on your own and you're not normal. So I feel like that's what's caused me to be on the path early, but not be better than everyone. I was just early. I feel like I reached like the self-discovery path at like 14, 15 versus where people start reaching that at like 20, 21.
So would you say pain has something to do with self-awareness?
Oh, for sure. I think pain's super important. Like you have to feel a lot of pain to grow and develop. And I always say like running my own business, like I lose clients, I lose work, like friendships break up. It's like every punch in the mouth I've taken has made me a better fighter in my arena. And so I don't regret any pain. I think pain is necessary for growth.
On that same point there, obviously what it would look like varies for everyone. Some people prefer to spend time alone. Some people prefer to be with people they love, whether it's family, friends, or their partner, or whatever it might be. But I guess it just depends on what they have going on in their life as well. It does say a lot about how to actually work on yourself. For me personally, when like all throughout high school, I had this image of, he's the joker, he's the happy kid, and sort of putting on, in a way, a mask. Obviously that mask of, okay, when I go to school today, I have to be this sort of person because that's who they think I am. When in reality, like, what am I actually facing inside? You know what I mean? So a lot of that came after I actually graduated school, where I took a step back and sort of looked at everything around me, looked at my, not only just financial position, but my emotional position, my physique, everything, and sort of just went, okay, this is who I am. What do I want to be? And for me, that's what I feel working on yourself is having a broad image of what you want to do or what you want to be, and then seeing where you are, seeing where you've been, and using that to create a path.
Well, for me, I think it's about being the best version of myself, I have a lot of older friends like Ryan. Ryan's a very close mate to me. And like I do like talking to a lot of my older friends because they've been through much more than I have been through. And I'm always trying to speak to them and see what they have been through, the mistakes they have made, so I don't have to make the same mistakes, and just grow. And yeah, just get a better job, getting like better physique, and not making the same mistakes that everyone's been like making, Of course you do learn from your mistakes. That's one of the main things.
What's the most important thing that you want to develop in the next 10 years?
Sorry, me?
What's the most important thing that you want to develop about yourself in the next 10 years?
I think financially, that's one of the biggest things these days, because we do need quite a bit to, like, I want to do the stuff that I want to be able to do. I want to make money, go out, travel, look after my parents, because I know at the end of the day my parents are going to get older, and I do look after them. Like, I want to do everything that they have done to me. I feel like I do have to pay them back by looking after them. And yeah, man, just pretty much like financially, that's the main thing, because from where I came from, I didn't have much options, and like I moved here and have a lot of options, like I got a lot of different friends that I can go. I'm just trying to be the best version of myself,
In Brazilian culture, how did your sort of family, what culturally do they teach you, how do they sort of view working on yourself?
So, because back home is very hard, you have a lot of people there, and there's not many, like, roles that you can do. There's a lot of competition back home. There's a lot of people. So my parents always told me, like, you work hard for your things, you do the right thing, and should be good, But at the end of the day, as long as you're playing, like, what are you good at, study, do your thing, do the right thing, do nothing wrong, you'll be a good person by the end of the day, And have faith. That's one of the things. But you just got to make sure that you're very good at what you do. Focus, work hard, look after your family, And yeah.
I think something that my dad says is, whether it's at home or even at training, is it's if you're gonna do something, don't do it half-assed. And that was always a very big. Your
dad said that to me as well in the jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's one of his favorite sayings.
Other things as well.
Yeah.
Not as nice.
Not definitely not as nice things, but it's that sort of thing that kind of pulls you together. And obviously, I didn't spend as much time in Brazil like Pedro did, but obviously, I still have a bit of a general idea of how things are obviously we were speaking about this upstairs. Whenever I go back for even just a holiday, just seeing how the rest of my family is, or seeing how, you know, some of the other people are living, and coming back here and kind of locking in and be like, so obviously it's humbling. You know, you come back and you're like, all right, I've worked hard to get to where I am now. I'm more fortunate than them. Obviously, there's more I need to do.
When you look at like the older generations, I feel like something like working on yourself and self-awareness and it's actually getting more younger people getting much better at that than what they were 20, 30 years ago. Do you sort of look at your parents or the generations above and feel like their definition of work on themselves would be quite different to what you would think?
In all honesty, yes. Yeah.
How so?
I got this mostly from my dad. My dad's always, he's calmed down a little bit now, but before is very, you know, black is black and white is white. This is how everything is, and this is how you're supposed to sort of function. Once again, I'm not, you know, saying that that's was a bad way to bring me up, because obviously it's instilled a lot of values that I now use in my own life. But for him, it was very, if I need to work on myself, I feel like for him, it wasn't really an option. It was, I just need to do this and this and this, and it is, just keep everything moving. And
so what things would he suggest today?
Pray.
Yeah.
Go to church every Sunday, pray. Yeah. Every time I'd say, I'm feeling this way, or I come home from school from a long day and be like, I feel a bit down. So just pray. So his way of sort of dealing with things, and his way of, I guess, building on himself is prayer, which is, you know,
through faith.
Yeah, through faith. We are a religious family, so I don't necessarily disagree with him. I do agree with him to a certain extent. I feel like there's other things that you can do or should do other than obviously just rely on your faith. Some things you obviously need to do for yourself or learn from other people.
So when you guys have kids, I mean, you're all young fellas now, but eventually if you have kids, how would you teach your kids how to work on themselves? In light that you'd probably have a different view of it compared to your parents.
I would say do the best that you can. You know, if you're going to do something, make sure you do it right. Do it right or don't do it. You know, do what you want to do. I'm not going to say no. At the end of the day, I'm here to support you. Everyone wants to do different things. I've worked with my dad before. I've tried to do the same thing that he'd done, and I hate it. Can't do it. I worked with him for like a good year, and I can't do it, man. Like, I hate it. So I just kind of went my own way, done what I've really liked to do, and that's sort of teach them, like, do what you want to do. If you think that's the right thing, just do it. Just make sure you do it right. You know, give it your all, and yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna push you to do other things. You know, if I think that's what you like, do what you love.
In saying all this, I think it's a privilege to be self-aware, or even have the ability to work on self-awareness. Especially with my parents, they come from the Philippines and they weren't very well off, so all they focused on was survival. Maybe you guys could maybe relate to this, but it's all about like surviving in another country, making money in order to provide for the family. And there was no room for, I feel depressed, or I feel like unhappy, or I feel anxious. It was like, we need to fucking survive in this country.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Yeah. I didn't even know what anxiety was before, you know, until I got here. I'd never heard that word before, not even in Brazil. I didn't even know what that was. I got here and I was like, anxiety? What's anxiety?
It's funny, so many cultures are the exact same.
Yeah.
And you ask people who are 40 plus, particularly 50 plus, and you ask them about mental health, they go, what's mental health?
I didn't know.
They're
The same.
They're like, I don't understand
like,
this.
Never heard about that before until I got here. And I was like, is that an actual thing?
And then is it like, obviously it's a real thing, but like, it's definitely exacerbated in the West compared to other
sure.
cultures. And I find people in the West, their mental health is worse than other cultures as well.
I think that has to do with like the comparison game as well, though, doesn't it?
Sorry?
It has to do with like the comparison game, like access
Big time,
to...
yeah. And there's definitely other elements like the family units weaker in the West than other ethnicities, which is a big thing. I think, I think the culture of the West is very, everyone's just out for themselves. Not everyone across the board, but it's much more me. Whereas I think a lot of other ethnicities, whether it's African, Asian, Latin, Arabic, like it's even if it's not always about yourself. It's about the family.
Family
and you can
orientated, very
like
family.
have your family that just piss you off, and those cultures, and they'll stick with them. Whereas in a lot of Western cultures, like you inconvenience me, you're dead to me, you're done.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like and I think that mentality of it's just so all about yourself, and that's not across the board, but like as a collective, much more than other ethnicities. I think that also when you don't have that family support, that would decrease your mental health as well. And when you keep thinking about mental health and keep thinking about labeling issues, that makes it worse as well.
Yeah.
So it's that weird dichotomy of like a lot of other ethnicities, there would be mental health issues and PTSD and stuff like that they'd completely sweep under the rug and they would ignore. Whereas in the West, I think we overanalyze it. So I think somewhere where you honour it and you honour it and work on it, but don't let it over.
I mean, Alex Hormozy had that thing. Am I allowed to swear on here? Yeah, he's like, it's the whole fuck happiness thing. He was so worried about being happy that his life was miserable because he could constantly just compare where I am is not happy and happiness is here. And he just said, I'm not going to focus on that. And then he put his head down and worked and found that eventually when he put his head up, he was happier because he didn't give it attention. He just did and lived. And I feel like, again, taking that survival mode a little bit back to the point where it's like you don't worry about feeling happy, but you know that it will come.
Definitely, because happiness isn't the objective in the end. It's just a state.
Yep.
You know, I think it's that having joy, working towards things that you want to work through. You're going to go through all the emotions, whether it's anger, people are going to die, people are going to fuck you over, great things are going to happen to you, everything's going to happen to you too. So having that, being idealistically thinking, I want to have that constant state of happiness, you're just setting yourself up, for failure, which I reckon is where a lot of it comes from. Boys, that's the hour. We're done.
Time.
So thank you for your input as well. It's good to hear input from the younger generation and a very thoughtful bunch of young gentlemen. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys, Marcelo, Brian, thank you for having us here. It's great, thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you very much to the Blokes Lab. This was actually a pretty fun experience for me.
All right, boys, let's jump into an ice bath.
Jesus Christ.